an instant speed tutor, by the way, on an MDFC. It only grabs instant bounce, man. Who cares? We're ranking every MDFC from MH3. You know what sucks about Magic is that sometimes when you get your opener hand and it's like, wow, lands and spells, great, but sometimes you don't get enough lands, right? So it's like, it's like land turn 1 pass, land turn 2 pass, land turn 3 miss land drop. So what if right, what if you wanted to play Magic, but God said no lands? These fix that because it increases the probability of you getting lands, right? Yes. You might have noticed that already there's a bottom tier named Rush of Inspiration. Let's just get that out of the way. Yep, there it goes. All right, cool. Already, this is an MDFC that not only play, but it is like actively bad. If you play this outside of an energy deck, because there's a really good chance that you play this and your hand like actively becomes worse. Play this and you draw like garbage, right? It's like 2 dead cards, and then you discard a card you need to try and pull back ahead, right? That sucks. And furthermore, I smack my mic stand. Furthermore, I'm pretty sure energy decks actually want to like spend energy on good cards that do good things, not spend energy to avoid downsides when they could just not play said cards with downsides at all. Would you play this just in like generic Is It Spellslinger? It's just a tapped land in the back. I don't think that's very good. I think it's just bad. I think this is the only MDFC where there's a chance you play it and it actively hurts you. And for that reason, it gets its own tier. Razorgrass Ambush. I'm kind of torn on this one. I think if you're mono white, you play this, but once you start getting into like 2 and 3 colors, this one might fall off pretty hard. It doesn't even kill anything unless they're attacking. People probably aren't gonna attack with creatures that are small enough to die to Razorgrass Ambush, right? Like I play Bolt in Commander a lot nowadays, and I think Bolt is good, but Bolt doesn't say you cannot cast this unless the creature's attacking. No one's gonna attack with their Thalias and all their little hate bears, like opposition agents, all that. They're not gonna attack with those. It doesn't make sense. That just open them being blown out. They're not gonna do that. I think once you leave mono white territory, this one becomes kind of eh. I kind of want to put it in playable in some decks, but maybe if you're in like Azorius, you might play it, right? But I think if you're in like Orzhov, Boros, or Selesnya, you're just not gonna play this. I'm gonna put it in niche. I really think that once you leave mono white territory, it kind of leaves the realm of playability, honestly. Because you're a mono white, you're only playing you're playing the MDFCs you can get, because you only have options for one color, pretty much. This one I actually think is pretty good. It's a human, which is a relevant creature type. You can blink it. It's white. It's great in blink decks. You can just keep blowing up multiple things over multiple turns. It's an untapped MDFC. It's just a creature. 4 mana is a little expensive, I suppose, but I mean, yeah, I'm gonna say good in most decks. Like, sure, 4 mana is a lot, but it's also a land, so you have no room to complain. You can just play it as a land if you want to. Hydroelectric Specimen. One thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about this card: the target doesn't have to be legal on Specimen, which sounds weird and confusing. Let's say someone casts a Wit's End, or a Thoughtseize, right? A Thoughtseize. Let's say someone tries to Thoughtseize you. You can cast this and change the target of the Thoughtseize to the Specimen, which just kind of counters it. So this is like a weird counter spell. It's 3 mana, and I do think any counter spell that costs more than 3 mana and is like really bad, it has to have some insane upside, or you just gotta be a big mana deck for 3 mana plus counter spells to be playable. But it's a 3 mana counterspell. It's also a land. I think every blue deck runs this. I play this in like Grixis decks, Sultai decks. I think it's good. I'm gonna say that Specimen is good in most decks. 1 blue for an instant. Return target spell or non-land permanent and opponent controls to owner's hand. And it's an untapped land. It's a blue land for 3 life. This is just good, right? 3 mana Unsubstantiate. It's also a land. That sounds good to me. I'd probably play this in 4-color decks even. Like those Crom Timna decks that I don't play because that deck is so boring to play. But like legit, it's a land. It's also like a counter spell or a bounce spell. I said counter spell, remand, whatever your preferred term is. Boggart Trawler. So the obvious comparison here is with Bojuka Bog. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like every time I run Bojuka Bog in my decks, and every time I draw it, I end up playing it because I don't want to miss my land drop of the turn, and it exiles like 3 cards. Bojuka Bog almost never actually does a good job of exiling someone's graveyard. I think it's still a good card, and you should still run it, because I mean, sometimes you are going to play against those Marin decks that just are absurdly dumb with the graveyard shenanigans, right? But this is a Bojuka Bog that can enter untapped, or use pay 3 mana, and cast it, and get a body alongside Graveyard Hate. Also, it's a goblin, right? If you're playing black-red goblins, all those base bugger auntie players who play black-red goblins because they're cool and they don't succumb to the mono red Krenko craze, right? Would this replace Bojuka Bog in my decks? It's Graveyard Hate. I mean, I don't play Bojuka Bog in every deck. Would I play this in every deck? I can't put Graveyard Hate MDFC below a good, man. I can't do that. Next up is Fel the Profane. I mean, do I even need to like discuss this? It's just a 4-mana Hero's Downfall. That's also a land. What am I gonna say? Oh yes. Removal on land, good. Yes, bro. Obviously it's good, bro. All right, next up is Pinnacle Monk. This one's kind of tough, honestly. I think Archaeomancer is like really not that great nowadays because 4 mana to return 1 thing is a lot. 5 mana is like terrible, dude. Sure, it's got prowess, so it can be an actually somewhat offensive body if you're one of those decks that can cast multiple 2 spells a turn, right? This thing can become if you can make this thing a 5/5 or a 6/6 multiple turns in a row, I think the extra mana comp is honestly probably worth it. Like, I feel like if you're casting this, that's your turn. That's it. You just cast this and pass. 5 mana for a 2/2, get something back is pretty terrible. I'm gonna say that this is our first playable in some decks. It's okay. I don't think it's terrible. It's not gonna be almost never useful like Razorgrass Ambush is. But at the same time, I feel like if I'm casting this, that's probably going to end up being my whole turn, which is not great, in my opinion. Sundering Eruption. Creatures out flying cannot block this turn. I think that line right there is what makes this card really good. Being able to hate on lands without having any actual like deck building cost is amazing. There legit needs to be more like hate for non-basic lands in this format. All these stupid Field of Deads. We just got Ugin's Labyrinth, Gaia's Cradles, and Cabal Coffers. All these just nuts busted lands. This is a land you can run that hates on other lands, or it can just be a decent land on its own. Also, if you're in like an aggro deck, this thing just turns off blocks for the whole turn. You can just cast this and legit kill someone. Creatures out flying can't block this turn. That's like 90% of creatures in Commander, bro. You cast this and then you just kill the green player with your army of I don't know, dragons or goblins or whatever in your red deck. Hates on non-basics, prevents blocks. Gotta say staple, y'all. I have to. I gotta say staple. Bridge works. Battle. You gotta be in a creature deck, right? You have to have a creature that will actually win the fight, or at least tie. That way it kills. 3 mana is not terrible, I think, considering it's MDFC. I don't think it's higher than playable. But I don't think it's extremely niche either, because most green decks are probably going to have the creatures necessary to make this good and playable. Just because it's green. Green gets all the stupid OP busted creatures. you know, they have like 10 mana by turn 5, and Hydras and garbage on turn 5, and just have like 20 power by turn 6 or whatever. It's a fight spell. It's a fight spell. It's also a land. It's fine. Next up, we got Disciple of Freyalise. Hooray! Hooray! Disciple of Bolas couldn't just be Black's thing. No, green needed one too. Green needed one too. Of course. Of course. It's overcosted, but like, who cares, dude? 6 mana is like 3 for green. That's how it works. 10 drops are actually 5 drops in green, etc. 8 drops are 4 drops for green. That's how it works. This thing should be able to draw you like 10 cards and gain you 10 life very easily. And then, oh, by the way, it's also a land if you need it. Untapped. Untapped, of course. You do have to be in a deck that is actually playing big creatures, right? I don't know, man. I think this MDFC absolutely has the biggest ceiling out of all of them. But at the same time, I think it's not exactly a slam dunk in every deck either. Because, like, sure, obviously, you know, sacking a 10-10 and drawing 10 cards is the dream. But are you happy just paying 6 mana to get a 3-3 and then sacking a 4-4 to draw 4 cards, gain 4 life? I think you are. Especially on an MDFC. I'm gonna say good in most decks. No other MDFC so far, and I don't think any in general, it actually allows you to draw cards. And you don't really have to sack a huge thing for you to get some value out of it. It can be like 6 mana, draw 3, gain 3. And get a body, which is, I think, is fine. Blood-soaked Insight. Alright, so now we're entering the dual color territory. So these lands will always enter tapped no matter what. I think stealing cards from your opponent's deck isn't really that good. Furthermore, I don't think I'm happy casting this unless I'm casting it for 2 mana. Because, you know, you don't know what you're getting. You're kind of just getting a bunch of random cards from somebody else's deck. They might be good, they might suck. You also gotta be in a deck, I think, that can consistently be able to make it cost 2, which I think is easier said than done. The one deck that comes to mind is I think it's Rakdos Lord of Riots, the one that like reduces your spells for 1 for each life your opponent's lost this turn. I think it's good in that deck for sure. I kind of want to say extremely niche, to be honest. Like, if you're in a pinch, it can get you just something to do. I'm gonna say playable in some decks, just because it is an MDFC that gives you card draw to a degree, or at least card advantage, because it's exile top of your opponent's deck. I think card advantage on an MDFC is good. I don't think it's niche like Ambush is, where there's a real chance you draw it and you can almost never cast it anyways. Drowner of Truth, 5 Simic for a 7/6 devoid Eldrazi creature. When you cast this spell, if specifically colorless was spent to cast it, create 2 spawns. I thought this thing made the spawns regardless. I actually didn't realize you had to spend colorless on to get the spawns, which I think actually makes it way worse than I thought it was. So if you're in like Simic good stuff, are you just jamming this in for the sake of being able to just cast a big fat creature sometimes? Like, assuming you can't actually fulfill the colorless requirement on this, right, to get the spawn tokens, are you happy just running this in the land slot in your blue-green deck to sometimes have just a fat creature?
No.
I do think it's one of the more niche ones on here. It's a tap land. It really is just a big fat creature with absolutely no utility. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of... No. I think if you can get the spawns off of it, it's good and like actually way better, because you do get 2 mana back. And at that point, it's either you spent 5 mana for a 7/6, or you just got 2 treasures. And spawns are basically treasure. Or you got 2 chump blockers. Next is Glasswing Grace. Okay, look, alright. Orzhov is life-paying colors. Orzhov is life-gain colors, right? Like, when I look at this thing, I think of Divinity of Pride, which was one of the avatars from Lorwyn block. It was like 5 Orzhov for a 4/4 flying a lifelink angel spirit, but it became an 8/8 if you had 25 or more life. So you paid 5 mana for this 8/8 flying lifelinker. Paying 5 mana to get a 5/5 flying lifelinker, I think is still good. Plus, it's also just a land, right? This might be an unpopular take on my part, but I really don't think Glasswing Grace is that terrible. I know people hate auras. People see, oh, it doesn't do anything. It's just an aura. It just makes one creature a little better. I really think, man, like, just slapping this on any sort of, like, just decently bodied creature can gain you a lot of life over just a couple of turns. I'm going to say playable. You know what? No. A tier higher. I think it's good in most decks. Life gain is good if it's unassuming, right? Soul Warden, I've seen gain like 20 life before, and people are like, "Hey, dude, why are you at 67?" Because I have a Soul Warden. That's why. Legion Leadership. I think this thing's insane. Like, I think this one's really good. It's either it can be like a safe spell in combat. It can just be a way to kill someone. Swing for 7. Oh, okay. I guess I'll just take it. Cool, bro. F you. Actually, it's 14. It's first strike. Like, it's a combat trick. It's a land. It can help you do. It can help push through a ton of damage. Imagine playing this in your dinosaur deck, and you cast this on Galta, and you hit him for 24, dude. I think it's really good. It's a great combat trick. It's 2 mana. It's nice and cheap. This thing is literally like Teamer Battle Rage on MDFC, which I think is really nuts. It's not a staple, but I think if you're in white-red colors, I really can't see you not wanting to play this. Honest to God, I really can't. A single Golgari for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains indestructible for some reason. Oh my god. Dude, let me tell you something, alright? Y'all are sleeping. Commander players are sleeping on all of these like 1 mana save spells. Blacksmith Skill, Temio Safekeeping, hell, even just Dispel. Good old like 1 blue mana instant, counter an instant spell, Dispel. 1 mana, tapping a single land to save something is amazing. All those spells I just listed are basically like 1 mana counter spells or removal. 1 mana save spells are legit like really good and really slept on, especially in those decks where it's like your commander has to not die for you to do your thing. Sure, you can't really dodge like Swords to Plowshares or Anguish of Making with this, but I think it dodges enough. And keep in mind, it's also MDFC. I mean, dude, like, it's so cheap. It's a 1 mana save spell. I really can't see you not wanting that in every Golgari deck, dude. I really can't. Next up is Strength of the Harvest. I mean, would you play all that glitters for 1 more mana if it's on MDFC? It doesn't count artifacts, it counts creatures, but I think considering the fact you're forced to play in a Selesnya deck, I think the creature change is probably an upgrade rather than a downgrade, to be honest. I mean, tokens, enchantments, probably not good outside of that. I have seen some people say that this card is like crazy, though, to be honest. I'll put it at the top of playable because I do think this one's ceiling is way higher than these 3 right here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, all right, cool. I'll put it in good in most decks. Next up is Stump Stomp. This is literally just like a strictly better Rabbit Bite, bro. Deals damage. It was powered on creature Planeswalker no control. Yeah, like this is just they just took Rabbit Bite and made it MDFC. So it's great in that regard. You gotta be a creature deck, but guess what? You're in green-red, so you're probably a creature deck anyways. It is very similar to Bridgeworks Battle, but then again, it's 1 less mana. You can't get traded, right? You can't get traded because it deals damage, not they fight. I'm gonna put a top playable, Suppression Ray. The only other card I can think of that's playable nowadays, where it like taps someone's board down, is like Tempest Caller, and that's specifically only in Merfolk. I really can't think of any blue-white deck that would want this card. I really can't. If you're in blue-white, you're probably in Flyers. You're probably that, or you're just straight up not an attacking deck. Like blue-white tends to be like a very controlling, go for a big spell or combo deck. Blue-white is not this like, oh, I'm gonna tap your stuff, that's why I attack you. I guess if there's an arch enemy with a huge board, you can kind of just, like, lock them down for a turn. But guess what? You don't even stun lock them unless you're an energy. You literally cannot use this thing defensively unless you are specifically in an energy deck. Which, I think if you're spending a bunch of energy to sleep someone, that's really bad. I really think you have to spend your energy on something more valuable than a overcosted sleep. Right? You're not even paying just one more mana. You're paying one more mana and likely a large amount of energy reserve. Plus the tap land, dude. I don't like this thing at all. I really do not like this thing at all. I can't think of any blue-white thing that wants this thing at all. I'm sorry. It's almost Rush of Inspiration tier, but Rush of Inspiration can like actively hurt you with some bad luck. This thing can't. I'm gonna put it at the very bottom of niche. We got Waterlog Teachings. Dude, if you're in blue-black, you probably already have a nice selection of instant spells or flash spells anyways. It's a tutor, an instant speed tutor, by the way, on an MDFC. It only grabs instant bounce, man. Who cares? You're in blue-black. Those are like counterspell colors. Those are reactionary colors. You can easily just pass, hold a counterspell. Oh, you do nothing? Cool. End of your turn. Tutor. That's so good. That's so good. I think this one is the most staple of all, to be honest. Easily. Most staple of all. I don't think there's anything I'd change here, honestly. What white-red deck is out there that you don't want to play Legion Leadership in, right? Like, I would think that if you're in, like, Jeskai, you wouldn't want that, right? But then again, Jeskai tends to be prowess colors, right? Actually, you know what? Yeah, move Leadership up to staple, honestly. Move it up. It's good. Even in Jeskai, like, Spellseeker decks is good. Yeah. I think that's what I'm gonna call the list for the final placements, honestly. Just don't play Rush and you're good. So, sorry, is it players? You got screwed over. Oopsie daisy.